Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today we're playing e4 as per usual. I'm very excited to play some exceedingly attacking chess. As we see a Sicilian defense, I'm going to play the Mengarini here with a3. Will we see knight c6, allowing us to go for b4 ideas? We absolutely do. They take the pawn, we then recapture. Will they accept the gambit fully? Hell yeah, they do. From this position, my win rate is something like 100,000%. We play c3 here, drive the knight back to c6, and then claim the full center by playing the move d4. d4 here. Now, I'm going to pre-move e takes d5. If they do play that, then legitimately, I have one of the nastiest weapons in my entire repertoire up my sleeve. However, some people decide to play e6 first, then trying to play d5. This guy goes for g6. Okay. Now, g6 makes sense, although you're not really making any claim to the center here. You're kind of just conceding that I have this massive control. A nice open rook, some super open diagonals for the bishops to develop, etc. I think I'll start with knight to f3. I mean, you got to develop the knight at some point. That clearly makes some sense. They develop the bishop here. And then I'm really feeling like aggressively attacking this king side. But given that the queen side is hardly appropriate for me to castle on, I may need to rethink those ambitions. However, who says we need to be castled is another question that we could consider. We could move the bishop maybe, put the king on f1 and then launch some attack like this. Regardless, I think I'm just going to play bishop e3 to start with. You know, super stable center here with the d4 pawn. If my opponent does go for like e6 and then d5, we're going to be able to push past by playing e5. If they go for d6 instead, which might make a little more sense alongside this g6 pawn structure here, then again, they just don't have much of a claim to the center. I'm going to play, I think, just bishop d3, honestly. I mean, this seems like a very appropriate square for the bishop to be on. Yeah, they do go for d6. Okay, so they're going for kind of like a, I don't know, a dragon setup? An accelerated dragon, I guess? I'm going to play the move queen to d2, immediately setting up a nice battery here towards the h6 square, and then immediately go into h6. I mean, we have a light squared pawn complex here around the king at least. I don't know if you can really call it a complex. I mean, we've got pawns on dark squares over here, but at least in the immediate vicinity of the king, the pawns are on light squares, hence the dark squares are by necessity structurally weak. And so if we infiltrate here, look to trade off this dark squared bishop, then maybe we can get really aggressive playing, for instance, Okay, hold on. This cannot be your priority. You know why? Because I'm going to go for your king's neck. Do I care about castling? No. I'm playing h4. Yes, please. I'm not taking the bishop first, because then if I play h4, they can play h5, and I don't really have any ability to bite on a hook here. Although bishop g4 is a little annoying, I will admit. However, does knight h2 seem ridiculous? And then we play like f3 and g4? I mean, I want to be really aggressive. I'm going to play knight h2, and I'm going to say, you know what? We're going to still expand this way. Just super aggressive. Now, probably I should be developing this knight at some point. They do drop back with the bishop. I'm half tempted to just play g4 straight away, and then just have an open g-file and play h5, but I feel like it's probably more appropriate to just play f3 first. And after f3, what are you doing to stop me just playing g4? Where is this bishop going? You don't want to play g5 to let it slip back, because then I can take here and open up that h-file and it does not look good for you. I think knight h2 is actually a really interesting idea. And eventually that knight will be able to move. It's g4, no? g4 takes, whole lot of takes, and then maybe they give a check on g3 then. I guess we could block though, and then lose our bishop, so probably not. Maybe I just take here first. I just feel like there's some tactical risk to leaving my queen defending this bishop over here. I think, right, let's just start by trading this. I'm then going to play g4. I do believe that we have won a piece here, but I think our opponent is going to have 3 pawns for the piece. So, you know, this is definitely extremely dangerous. My king side is completely weak. My queen side is also exceedingly weak. I do have some developmental issues in terms of moving this knight, but our opponent here does have to decide what they want to take with. I would imagine the knight makes sense. Either way, I guess we're just going to play pawn takes. So I guess we will just pre-move. F takes g4. Now, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. Presumably I play knight takes g4, although that does let the queen in a little. Okay. They play bishop takes first, which is interesting. Yeah, I would rather not give much activity here, and I think if we just trade the piece off, I mean, yes, there's a queen involved, but it's like the knight's not really getting in, the rooks aren't really getting in, and you can't do a whole lot with just one piece. So I think we will grab this knight here. Now, 3 pawns for the bishop is an interesting trade. It should definitely benefit me. I should be at least marginally winning here. I think playing queen f2 to start with is probably a very good idea. Getting on this diagonal so there's no, for instance, queen g3 check. You know, being preventative instead of reactive, because here, for instance, we develop the knight here, queen f2, then the bishop hangs. So we just don't allow the check at all. We also maybe support rook g1 as an idea at some point. I do think queen f2 makes a whole lot of sense. Now, it's absolutely not clear that I'm winning. Like, I can't rest on my laurels here at all. We've got a lot of fighting to do. And my king is painfully weak. In fact, is f5 a move here? They play... Okay. I was thinking f5 could be interesting. try and open up the rook onto the queen. We'll see what the engine thinks of this position afterwards, I guess. But starting with rook g1, to me, seems to make a lot of sense. Let's go for this. Get the rook on this nice file. I mean, maybe it also belonged on the h file. That's for sure conceivable. And that looks like une fourchette pour moi. Let's take a fork and just break it in honor. That went everywhere. What the? Wait, what? I mean, in honor of the fork we just got. They wanted a take back. Get out of my face, dude. That was not a misclick. Let's go here. You know, you don't request a take back off the back of just you blundered. There are bits of shrapnel all over my floor. This was not worth it. But we now have a bishop and a knight for 4 pawns. I have 3 remaining pawns on the board. This is still very interesting because it's not exactly like I'm in the clear yet. You know, things can very easily look a bit dicey over here. Maybe I just play rook f1, threatening this check. Seems reasonable. Rook f1, f5 takes. Okay, we're going to start with knight d2 because, okay, the knight's going to move at some point. Maybe I can sort of cocoon my king in the center with the pieces. Try and stay a little protected that way somehow. I mean, I could literally play rook f1, rook d1, and bishop e2. There's just no access to my king whatsoever. I mean, clearly that's not the optimal plan, but we probably want to play h5 at some point, looking to perturb the pawns around the king. Now, taking does open up this bishop. It also opens up my king. h5. I think this makes sense. We're buying here, we're applying pressure to g6, the king's on this file, and potentially we're going to get a whole lot more pressure over there in the near future. I think this does make sense. If you take here, then I take with the bishop, of course. Think I'm doing okay? It does feel like I'm leaning towards a position, though, with these kind of moves, where I just have genuinely 0 pawns on the board, while our opponent still has all their major pieces. That is, you know, a little dangerous to say the least. That's scary as well. Now, I was thinking f5 earlier was a bit scary to open this rook up onto my queen, but it is very, very, very scary now because you're also threatening to take with tempo here. If I take like this, then you take with the rook, of course. You don't want to trade the queens off, then you're just going to be losing. In fact, sorry, what am I talking about? So if I take here, you don't recapture with anything because you can't take with the pawn. The queen or the rook get captured by the bishop. So I take here, you play presumably a little e4 intermezzo, maybe? Then I play flipping hell. I don't even know what I play there. Right, let's take. What's the worst that can happen? You know, we end up with literally no pawns. We have this check, though. Right, I'm starting with this check because I don't want my queen on this f-file. I think this is pretty funny. Right, you do not want to pin your own pieces here. Oh, as well. Bishop takes. Or even knight takes. And you can't recapture because the queen's hang. Guys! Knight takes, you pin my knight, but I get to go check. Yeah, this is just GG right now. This is just good game. Well played. And who needs a safe king? My king stood there, unmoved, the entire game. Now we can take here, of course, and recapture. And resignation on the spot. There we flip and go. I guess in some way taking here was another fork. I mean, we hit the king and we hit the queen, so let's just take another fork and... I really didn't learn from the first mistake. There's actually plastic everywhere now. I just got a Chinese takeout and they gave me 2 plastic forks with it. And because I'm a man of culture, I of course use silverware and nothing less. Oh, if this goes through my foot when I'm walking around, I'm going to be quite upset. Especially after how contrived that second break was. Let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis. 91% accuracy with 5 inaccuracies. Precisely how I like it. No mistakes or blunders, but a nice healthy smattering of inaccuracies. So we started with e4. We went for our Sicilian line. They took, we went here, and they played g6. Now, the kind of critical line is after d5 here, queen takes, knight a3, and there's threats of knight b5, for instance. This is a blunder because after this, queen back here, if you take, then there's a nice queen sack and a fork, blah, blah, blah. That's an extremely tactically rich line. However, g6, significantly less tactically rich, but knight f3 seems very reasonable. Bishop develops, we develop our bishop. I mean, all just sort of bouncing around the +-1 zone, ±0.5 zone really in terms of valuation. Then I played queen d2, which is inaccurate because it wanted me to go for d5. And I guess if d5 and you go here, I take here. Aha, and then I can pick up the pawn on a7. Okay, so the point of d5 was to win a pawn on a7. I don't want to do that. That is not how I want to be playing chess. Then I'm going to go in here. Again, there were probably opportunities to win a pawn on a7. Also, the engine wants me to play h3, kind of prophylaxis preventing the development of this bishop to g4. Kind of meaning that this bishop, I guess, has nowhere to really belong because, of course, you go here and there's another fork. Don't mention forks. But we go in here. This is actually pretty bad. Bishop here. Why is this so bad? Bishop here, what's wrong with it? I guess I don't have knight d2 very easily. If I go here, I lose this. Yeah, and I don't have my knight h2 resource. After I play h4, however, bishop here. Knight h2 was actually reasonable, and then this was a blunder from our opponent. Knight h2 was actually the best move here, which is awesome. They should have just retreated. I would have probably carried on expanding, taken here, h5, I don't know. I clearly wasn't trying to play objectively perfect chess. I was trying to get something exciting going on here. I mean, I probably should have just castled kingside a long time ago. However, their bishop goes back. f3 is a lovely punishing move, preparing g4. The engine's preferred line is, instead of queen d7 here, to take, and then play a4, which then after g4, like, what? And then not even taking here, you just play e5. Okay, I'm not surprised at all my opponent didn't go for this. Instead, they play queen d7, such that after I play takes, and then g4, they can take here, we take, they take, I take, they take with the queen, and I went for queen f2, which was not so accurate because apparently queen h2 was stronger. These moves are very similar though, in the sense that they both control g3, they both keep an eye on the pawn here, maybe preparing, sorry about that, rook to g1. I guess maybe we create a battery here and then try and use it somehow, but they can play h5 very easily. Or maybe it was through with my queen being on the f file actually. Either way, this is a reasonable move, if a little inaccurate. They went for e5, not so strong. Instead, should have gone for b5, just hanging a pawn. Oh, I guess it doesn't hang a pawn because of this. So they should have been worried about their passed pawns, I think. Or rather, their passed pawn and expanding on the queen side, which is very difficult to do, given all the action here over on the king side. So we go here. I play rook g1. I should have played d5 first, but rook g1 serendipitously allowed me to fork my opponent here. Clearly inaccurate to go to the e6 square. They should have gone to d7. Even if they hadn't gone to e6, I still like my chances after here. They go back maybe. We can eventually play this. Maybe try and bring the knight over. I still definitely had some interesting attacking chances. However, I won't pretend it didn't make it significantly easier that we got that nice fork. Bringing the knight in, of course. Then pushing the pawn, best move and best move. Then taking here, best move, because after they push past, we do have this lovely check, which I did not even slightly calculate, but sort of opportunistically saw at pretty much the last second. They then pin their own piece, which kind of just made no sense, and then we got this lovely knight takes e4, tactical denouement of the game. Should you take here, you lose your queen, not only losing your queen, but losing it with check. Here, I mean, I could have sacked my queen here, taken here, gone here, here, and then bishop here, you know, rook here, rook g4, I don't know. Eventually, castling queenside would have been kind of a funny way to do that. But of course, instead they went across. We play queen takes here, and then after takes, we take, and of course they resign because we have 9 extra points of material. Should they take here? I mean, yeah, again, we can take. The king goes here to try and blockade the pawn. It's held a million times. We could even go straight for rook h1, and then rook h7, and then pushing, and then rook here, and just everything being held all the time. So yeah, clearly that would have resulted in a loss for our opponent. Not the most ingenious game by me necessarily. If we're being honest, I was probably playing more on my opponent's bad moves than my good moves, but we definitely had some good moves, and then had the composure not to sort of collapse here after the move f5. It would be very easy to actually just get completely rolled with the king in the center here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.